And so I think there's this halo effect that's going on right now where everybody's thinking more about privacy, whether it be advertisers, the platforms, the media, and that's leading social media users to also probably be more conscious of their privacy, which could explain why all of the figures went down year over year.
Hey gang, it's Monday, November 22nd. Debbie and Audrey and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Tenuity. I'm Marcus. Today I'm joined by two folks. First of all, we have our principal analyst who heads up our social media and international team. It's Deborah Aho Williamson.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey, Debbie. We're also joined by one of our senior analysts. It's Audrey Schomer.
Hi, Marcus.
Hey, thank you both for hanging out today. Today's fact: the bricks in the Great Wall of China are held together by sticky rice.
No, they're not.
So true. I still don't kind of believe it, but according to a study by the American Chemical Society, the world's first composite mortar was sticky rice. The sticky rice mortar used on the Great Wall of China bound the bricks so tightly that weeds still haven't sprouted in many locations. It's true. They used to use sticky rice as mortar.
Thank you for that.
Bloody amazing. Huh?
That's all I can say is that is one of the factors I would never have expected.
Yeah, it's shocking. Okay, if you're building your own home, don't use sticky rice, okay? I don't want people emailing in saying, oh, my husband told me that you suggested we use sticky rice. No, okay? I'm not suggesting you use it, but they used it a long time ago. The Great Wall, nearly 3,000 years old, could stretch across America 4 times and is an average height of 20 to 23 feet, 6 to 7 meters. Amazing. Anyway, today's real topic, digital trust. So, we're talking digital trust today, and we're talking about it because we had a report come out all about it very, very recently. Digital Trust Benchmark Report 2021, how US social media users rank social platforms on privacy, safety, deceptive content, ad relevance, and ad annoyance. We're talking about all of it, and we're talking about all of it with the two folks who put together the report. And so, Debbie, Audrey, you know that you analysed data from your 5th annual US Digital Trust Survey to evaluate how US social media users feel about 9 major social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, and show the extent to which trust affects usage and attitudes towards advertising. We'll get to those in a second, but just to give folks an idea of the ranking, LinkedIn up top, followed by Pinterest. Those two stayed the same as last year. So LinkedIn, the most trusted, then Pinterest. Then it goes Instagram, Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Some of them have moved around. The top 2 stayed the same, LinkedIn, Pinterest from last year, and the bottom one, Facebook, stayed the same all the way down in 9th place. Then you've got the scorecard as well. You rank it according to those different categories. So where's LinkedIn among those 9 on security, on community, on ad relevance, etc.? LinkedIn's pretty much number 1 for most of them. Pinterest number 2 for all of them. And then it's kind of a mixed bag. Facebook is last in a lot of those, but we take an average across them and to give you the overall ranking that I just mentioned. LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, the top 3, Facebook at the bottom. Let's start, folks, with how concerned US social media users are about privacy, safety, deceptive content, and how it affects their willingness to engage with ads on those platforms.
Yeah, so, what we asked all of our respondents, we surveyed 1,730 US social media users on 5 different factors, as you just outlined, that they felt that they would most impact their trust in social platforms. And then we asked them the extent to which each of those factors would affect their decision or willingness to engage with advertising or sponsored content on those same platforms. And what we found is that actually a majority of respondents felt that the top 3 trust factors that would most impact their trust in a social platform were either very or extremely impactful on whether they would engage with an ad or sponsored content on that platform. Mm-hmm. So for our security pillar, for example, which is whether a platform protects user privacy and data, 77% of people said that would be extremely or very impactful on whether they engage with an ad.
So that's interesting because privacy, as you note in the report, the single biggest factor affecting users' willingness to engage with social media advertising. However, there's the privacy paradox, right? Which is this idea of a discrepancy between an individual's intentions to protect their privacy and how they actually behave online. So, for example, Facebook is the least trusted platform, but appears to be the most used. What do we make of that?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one because you're right. I think what users say or what they think they intend, it doesn't always match their behavior. And, we have seen that over and over again in the research that we've done over the years on social media usage. As you just alluded to, in our survey, we asked these social media users which platforms they had used in the past 12 months, and Facebook topped the list at 88%. And that was not really changed from 2020. 2020 was 87%, and within the margin of error could have been the same figure. So really could have been unchanged from year to year, which I think speaks volumes to me about the power of Facebook and the allure of Facebook, so that even if it perhaps ranks low in trust, it is still really, really widely used. And another example of that would be a platform like LinkedIn. LinkedIn had the most trust, as you mentioned, but it's only used by 31% of social network users. So you could ask, well, why aren't more social network users using LinkedIn if they really trust it? Well, it's because it's a platform for professional networking and it's got a very specific use case. So we don't always see that people's behaviors match up with their trust attitudes, but we do believe, based on our research, that they at least intend for their attitudes to make a difference in how they interact and engage with the advertising that's there. So that was a super interesting finding from our study.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that. I mean, it doesn't totally fly in the face of long-running conversations that advertisers and platforms, for that matter, have been having around the importance of brand safety on social platforms. Deceptive content and user safety are very important for advertisers to be considering, and those are trust-related factors that determine how they would allocate spend on really any channel.
Yeah. And we're talking about using these platforms. A big question then is also how. People say they log in once a month, they open the app once a month, but how is the time spent going up or down, the activities varying? So a lot under the surface of that usage figure. Let's go through some of the categories that you covered. So security, legitimacy, community, ad relevance, and ad experience. We're going to focus on three of those. First of all, security. Debbie, talk us through people's attitudes to that.
Yeah, sure. So just to recap, security is how people feel about the phrase, I am confident that this social platform protects my privacy and data. So when we did our benchmark process, we ranked LinkedIn number one in security, and Facebook was last. So that may not seem surprising to people. LinkedIn, I think, first of all, it was in the top spot this year as well as last year. We think that that's because users believe that the platform does keep their information secure. And I think LinkedIn has definitely benefited by receiving very little media attention for data privacy scandals or for missteps this year. That certainly helps contribute to this a positive perception among people. Kind of like the more that you stay out of the news, the more the better. Facebook, on the other hand, coming in last in security, it had a lot of challenges. We all know with privacy and security, it's very well known, and it keeps coming up over and over again. And those things receive a lot of media attention because of how dominant Facebook is in the digital landscape. And so that really helps contribute to lowered trust among users.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few things jumped out to me. Snapchat moved down 3 places, the biggest variation year to year, in security, going from 3rd to 6th. Secondly, security seemed to be the most impactful in terms of folks' decisions to interact with ads across security, legitimacy, community, ad relevance, and ad experience. Security was number 1. And then also, Debbie, the share of people who thought social media platforms protected their data privacy fell for every platform. Even LinkedIn and Pinterest, who topped the rankings, it went down for all of them, we should say.
Yeah, I do think that, privacy has been in the news, right? Audrey just wrote a whole report about Facebook advertising, which I highly, highly recommend, by the way, that anybody who's a subscriber, please check it out. It was fantastic. But, there's been a lot of debate right now about privacy and advertising and how to reach consumers in social platforms if privacy protections are changing. And so I think there's this halo effect that's going on right now where everybody's thinking more about privacy, whether it be advertisers, the platforms, the media, and that's leading social media users to also probably be more conscious of their privacy, which could explain why all of the figures went down year over year.
Audrey, what's the title of that report?
The Facebook advertising report. And thank you, Debbie.
If you're a pro subscriber, check it out. Let's move to legitimacy. Debbie, talk to us about that one.
Yeah, that one is also interesting, but also not interesting. And I'll explain why. It's not interesting because the same platform rank number 1 and number 9. So LinkedIn came in first in our benchmark for legitimacy, which says that people overall believe they're least likely to see deceptive content on the platform. And Facebook ranked last. So that's the sort of not interesting part because it's the same as what we just discussed. But what's interesting about it is, again, deceptive content's been hugely in the news, right? I mean, we've seen discussions about misinformation related to the coronavirus and the election and all sorts of things. A lot of that, again, has been tied to Facebook. And so this platform is frequently criticized for its content moderation policies or for not effectively enforcing those policies. And the news articles, again, the negative media attention, I think, really weighs on social media users. So the more they read about the potential for deceptive content on a platform like Facebook, the more they are likely to say they see it or look for it or think that something they see might be deceptive. So I think all of those things play into that. LinkedIn, on the other hand, again, professional social network, someplace where you go and you're there for a very specific purpose. You want to share something about your work, your company, your business. You're not necessarily going to share deceptive information because it's going to affect your reputation or your company's reputation. So it's pretty logical to why LinkedIn might have ranked first in this pillar.
Audrey, ad relevance is another one of the 5 pillars of digital trust. What did you find out about that?
Yeah, actually on this pillar, there was an outlier case where Instagram actually rose to the top, followed by Pinterest as the platforms where users were most likely to feel that ads are relevant. But actually, we found that looking closer at the percentage data, that when we consider the percentages of those who at least somewhat agreed that ads are relevant, but the combined percentage of those who either strongly agreed, or somewhat agreed, actually, Instagram and Facebook are the leaders in that. So 63% of Instagram users and 62% of Facebook users at least somewhat agreed that ads are relevant on those two platforms. And so, on that note, Facebook and Instagram are part of the same company and they have this combined mutual strength on ad relevance just because they have such a mature ads business, such precise ad targeting and retargeting capabilities. And those capabilities are powered by enormous amounts of first-party data. But also in the past, that's been supplied heavily by third-party data from off-platform actions and interactions across apps and websites. But I guess on that note, we're anticipating that some perceptions of ad relevance on each of the social platforms might be subject to greater change over the next year or longer, given the deprecation of IDFAs on iOS devices.
Yeah, quite a bit of movement in this category. Ad relevance, YouTube moved up 3 places on ad relevance, moving from 9th to 6th. TikTok moved down 3 places on ad relevance from 5th to 8th. Quickly on ad experience, this was, I felt, one of the most interesting findings. Maybe not the most surprising, but still interesting to see some numbers back it up. YouTube and Facebook continue to show people the most annoying ads, even more so than last year. Both now way ahead of Twitter in 3rd on annoying ads. Annoying how, you explain in the report, high ad loads and ads users perceive as invasive, repetitive, or interruptive of their experience of content, most likely a reason, and also ad annoyance may be tied to the time people spent on those platforms, or on those platforms more, so they're more aware of the ads and maybe more annoyed by them as a result. Any other findings jump out to you both in terms of the most interesting from the report?
There was one sort of demographic cut that we detected, which was on the community pillar, where we found that similar to past years and last year in particular, male social media users across all platforms tended to feel safer than female users. So on almost every single platform that we evaluated, male users were more likely to say that they felt safe participating and posting. So for example, there was a pretty large percentage point gap between male and female perceptions on YouTube. That was an 11 percentage point gap, and other large gaps occurred on Instagram at 10 percentage points, Facebook at 8, and Twitter also at 8 percentage points.
Interesting. Debbie, any other interesting findings for you?
I think I just wanted to go back to the comments about ad relevance versus ad experience or ad annoyance. It's interesting because they're related, right? I mean, one person's relevant ad is one person's really annoying ad, right? And could be
Right.
the reverse is true as well. So it's interesting to look at these two pillars and where the platforms rank in conjunction with one another. And for example, like on ad experience, we have, LinkedIn and Pinterest ranking the best, where in other words, the ads are least annoying. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because these are platforms that are very specific. So you're there for a specific reason, professional networking or looking for things that you're passionate about and want to, explore your interests. So they see ads that look less annoying, but also probably irrelevant. Anyway, it was very interesting to dig into the differences between how people feel on those two pillars and how they compare. And we do get into some of that in the report.
Yeah, interesting relationship between the two. That's it for the lead story. Time now for the halftime report. Audrey, and we'll start with you, then move straight to Debbie. What's your takeaway from the first half?
Yeah, so what I find really interesting is looking at some of the percentage comparisons versus 2020. And so, for example, on the community pillar, we found actually that users on almost every single platform except for LinkedIn and Reddit, users were less likely to say that they felt safe participating and posting on the platforms that they use. So for example, this year, 34% of Facebook users said that they feel safe participating on the platform, and that was actually down from 40% last year.
Debbie, how about for you? One takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was the fact that security, or in other words, privacy, legitimacy, in other words, deceptive content and community safety were the three factors that were most impactful on people's trust in social media. Those three factors were also either extremely or very impactful on people's decision to engage with ads. So what is additionally interesting, and if I could put in a quick plug for this, we also looked at social commerce behaviors in this study. And so we'll be publishing a new report in about a month, specifically looking at the attitudes and behaviors of social commerce users and those who have not. And just one quick finding there, among the people who have not engaged in social commerce in recent months, those three same factors were impactful on their decision. So things related to security, community, and legitimacy also kept them from engaging in social commerce. So there you go.
A social commerce behaviors report coming out soon. Check that out if you're a pro subscriber. But right now you can check out our Digital Trust Benchmark Report 2021, how US social media users rank social platforms on privacy, safety, deceptive content, ad relevance, and ad annoyance, written by Debbie and Audrey. That's what we've got time for the first half of the show. It's time now for In Other News, but first a quick word from our sponsor, Tenuity. When it comes to performance marketing, you need an agency that understands balance of brand and demand, art and science, of data and people, experience and innovation. You need a marketing agency that brings it all together without losing sight of what really matters: performance. Rethink performance with Tenuity, the largest independent performance marketing firm across streaming TV and the triopoly of Google, Facebook and Amazon. Find out how at rethinkperformance.com. Folks, we are back today in other news. Facebook scraps ad targeting based on politics, race, and other sensitive topics, and TikTok is expected to reach the 1.5 billion user mark very soon. Story 1. Facebook scraps ad targeting based on politics, race, and other sensitive topics, writes Shannon Bond of NPR. She notes that the parent company of Facebook will no longer let advertisers target people based on how interested the social network thinks they are in sensitive topics like health, race and ethnicity, political affiliation, religion, and sexual orientation. Facebook says they're doing this to try and stop advertisers from using ad targeting to discriminate against certain users. The changes take effect on January 10th across Meta's apps, Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and its audience network. Advertisers can still target ads based on age, gender, location, and other categories Facebook doesn't consider quote-unquote sensitive. Audrey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually a step in the right direction. It's Facebook basically, well, Meta, I guess for that matter, basically saying
Right.
that on its social platforms, it's no longer going to allow advertisers to target people based on these sensitive topics or interest areas that could be misused by an advertiser. It's basically Meta saying that any trying to limit the harms of this kind of targeting that could lead to discrimination or discriminatory actions. So they're not doing away with targeting altogether. They're still going to allow advertisers to target ads based on certain demographic criteria, but this is stripping out a good number of things that could potentially be misused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Emma Roth of The Verge points out that the reason for the recent change, likely because Meta is preparing for the outcome of the EU's vote on whether to ban tracking-based ads as soon as December. Insider Intelligence analyst Nina Getson notes that Facebook and Instagram marketers need to prepare for an even more challenging ad environment, and Meta may need to prepare to lose money in ad revenues, but the move has good optics, and the revenue hit may be worth the reputation boost, potentially. Story 2. TikTok is expected to reach 1.5 billion monthly active users in the next 12 months, per App Annie, writes eMarketer briefing director Jeremy Goldman. That would make it the fastest social app to reach that threshold in nearly a decade. He notes, Debbie, that it also doesn't appear to have been significantly wounded, TikTok that is, by Meta, formerly Facebook Inc., duplicating some TikTok features, unlike Snapchat, which was hobbled, he says, after Instagram co-opted its features back in 2016. What do you make of this 1.5 billion user goal?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I had a discussion with our lead forecaster who works on our social network user forecasts. And that is a very aggressive number to us.
Right.
Just to put it in context, TikTok did say a few months ago that they had 1 billion monthly users around the world. From what we can tell, we're not exactly sure how those numbers are counted. But to us, when we publish our own figures on TikTok, we only look at logged in users who visit once a month. We factor out duplicate, spam, business, and non-human accounts. We have not yet published a worldwide number, but hint, hint, it's coming soon. But for now, just to look at one market, we're estimating 79 million users in the United States. So that to us seems to be a much more realistic number. There's no question that TikTok is growing. We all agree with that. There's no question that TikTok is extremely popular around the world, and not just in the United States. Whether it's going to reach 1.5 billion users, that seems a stretch to us.
Yeah, so Debbie, TikTok banned in India in June of last year, June 2020. Do you think they're hoping that ban gets withdrawn and that potential 1.4 billion person market opens up?
That is, it's a possibility. I would say it's fairly remote at this point. Okay. India, by the way, seems to have moved on based on my conversation with Peter, with our forecasting director. Platforms like Snapchat and Instagram have come in to fill the void and are growing very rapidly in India.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you to Debbie.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks to Victoria. She edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Daily and eMarketer podcast made possible by Tinuiti.